Up, up, up. COVID-19 numbers continue to rise in the country, breaching for the first time the 40,000 mark, and this is likely to complicate the reopening of public schools in about 3 times from now. What does this mean for the country? Good evening. Thank you very much indeed for your time. This is Business Insight. We are live. We are on air. My name is Obrien, and bowing out in style, after Kenya lost its bid for the top position at the World Trade Organization, the country is now backing Nigerian Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala for the position. And the question is this Africa's time, or the party will be spoiled by South Korean Yoo Myung? You are in for the most comprehensive business news on the land. My name is Obrien Kimani. It's all happening right here, right now, on this channel. But first of all, a look at the highlights. Taming political rallies. Cabinet set up a multi-agency team on public order to monitor and enforce directive on public meetings. Tactical retreat. Deputy President William Ruto postpones planned fundraiser in Nyamira County as police disperse crowd attending the meeting. And courting disaster. Ministry of Health sounds alarm over increase in COVID-19 community transmissions. At Obrien Kimani is my Twitter handle. At KBC Channel 1 is our Twitter handle. Lelsa Odingo is our sign language interpreter. The Cabinet has sanctioned the establishment of a multi-agency team on public order to monitor and enforce compliance of a directive governing the conduct of holding public meetings. The agency will be led by the Ministry of Interior and is expected to also spell out the permitted processes for media broadcasting, publishing and reporting, as well as responsible conduct for persons using social media. Glandis Mugai with the details of the resolutions by the Cabinet.
A day after the National Security Advisory Committee issued guidelines and security of the conduct of the public gatherings, President Uhuru Kenyatta convened a cabinet meeting to deliberate on the fast evolving situation, which the Security Committee says is threatening to derail the government's agenda. During the meeting, the cabinet unanimously endorsing the establishment and immediate operationalization of a multi-agency team on public order whose singular role will be to monitor, document and enforce compliance with respect to the conduct of all public meetings. The convener of the meeting was listed as the Minister of Interior, while the National Security Advisory Committee would form the Secretariat. Other members include the Office of the Attorney General, Ministry of ICT, National Intelligence Services, DCI, Kenya Police, Administration Police, National Cohesion and Integration Commission, ICT Authority, and Communications Authority of Kenya. The Cabinet also cautioned that no one will be allowed to hamper Kenya's progress on unity and the equal enjoyment of fundamental rights and freedoms. The Cabinet also cleared the 2020 Budget Review and Outlook paper for the financial year 2021-2022's medium-term budget for the debate in Parliament. For Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i has warned politicians to watch their tongues, saying the stability of the country should not be sacrificed at the altar of political populism. Matiang'i maintained that all leaders should follow guidelines outlined by the National Security Advisory Committee regarding holding of public meetings within the confines of the law.
The recent heightened political activities in the country, 2 years to the general election, and in contravention of the COVID-19 precautionary measures, saw the National Security Advisory Committee read the Riot Act on politicians, undermining the war on the pandemic, besides fueling hate speech. Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i reinforced the directive Thursday, cautioning hate mongers to think of the country's stability.
And we know where we are going to go with those kinds of mistakes, where leaders take the platform and just basically say anything. It doesn't matter whether they are lying or not. It doesn't matter whether they are hurting people or not. We cannot live that way. We have a responsibility, and I want to call upon you, my brothers and sisters, that Kenya is ours, all of us, and therefore we have an equal responsibility, all of us, to build it, to ensure it is stable, and to ensure that we hand it over to our children and our children's children.
Matiang'i also urged Kenyans to play their individual roles if the war on COVID-19 is to be won.
We have to safeguard our society for us, for ourselves, not for someone else, for us. And let's keep sending this message, going one person at a time and engaging in these conversations, that as a country, we are always better than this.
The NSSC directive that, among others, required the conveners of public meetings and processions to notify police and refrain from ethnic balkanization utterances has elicited varied reactions. Law Society of Kenya President Nelson Harvey warned against reversal of gains in rights to public assembly.
That decision does not have any foundation whatsoever, because it purports to state that you're required to give 3 days notice to the National Security Council before you go in any public gathering. Yet the Constitution gives you the right to meet, to assemble, provided you're doing it in a peaceful manner.
The Supreme Council of Kenya Muslims, however, supported the directive, noting that some politicians were fueling unnecessary tension in the country.
Our political leaders of all shades and opinions should be reminded not to vacate the premise that they are the role models of our eager and anticipatory youth. We therefore must exercise maximum decorum and wisdom, and must also refrain from causing unnecessary divisions and commotions in our communities for political gains.
Sentiments echoed by a section of leaders in Kiambu County who cited the Sunday violence at Kenol Town in Murang'a as a sign of political immaturity.
It is a very bad example to be calling these people, these young people, to go and throw stones in your campaign rallies. Please, if you cannot take your children to go and throw stones in a campaign rally, do not take any other kid, anybody else's kid.
I also need to appeal to the president and his security team. They need to stop this madness. Otherwise, we are going to lose so many young ones.
For Channel 1 News, I'm Safin Acheng Oma.
Deputy President William Ruto has postponed the Nyamira's fundraising event that was to be held on Thursday and Friday to next week. Ruto, who was to attend the two events, said meeting was postponed after consultations with the local leaders. This as chaos rocked Kebirogo ground, the venue of Thursday's event, as police dispersed locals who had gathered in anticipation of the event.
The packing of material that was set in preparation for what was said to be a fundraising to aid youth in Nyamira County begins. Should things have gone as planned, Deputy President William Ruto would have graced the fundraising event Thursday. Things, however, seem to have taken a different turn. Truckloads of police officers arrived here to enforce the government security guidelines that were issued on Wednesday that dictated that conveners of such gatherings should inform local police of the same more than 3 days in advance. A tear gas here, another there quickly dispersed the crowd who ran for their safety. Deputy President William Ruto quickly through his Twitter account announced the cancellation of the two events to Thursday and Friday next week respectively. Ruto, who said the decision was arrived at after consultations with local leaders, however said the action by police was unnecessary. Local leaders, however, blamed the police of hypocrisy, claiming that top security had been informed of the meeting and endorsed it.
Ni vijana wetu wanasaidika. Ni vijana ambao wangekuwa waharibifu huko nje, wanafanya vitu mbaya.
Ile onyo ambayo ilipeanwa jana, ile onyo haifai ama iwezi ku-apply kwa rais na naibu wa rais yeye mwenyewe. Na hata kama ingekuwa inafanya kazi, mimi mwenyewe zaidi ya siku 4 kutoka siku ya Jumatatu nilipatiana information kwa county commissioner kwa tutakuwa na mkutano.
Sentiments echoed separately by Kirinyaga County Women Representative Wangui Ngirishi, who termed the police action as barbaric and unconstitutional.
Why can't we keep peace? Watu wagetwa mimi nikikuja hapa niwalete chakula nikuje niongee yangu kwa sababu a politician is called a politician because of politicking, na hii mdomo ndio ilifanya mkanichagua. Si muachane na sisi tuongee jamani.
Yusufar, Channel 1 News.
Transparency International has called on Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and Asset Recovery Agency to immediately institute asset recovery procedures from those who squandered the monies meant for combating COVID-19. The governance lobby group said the Auditor General's special report indicated that 2.3 billion shillings has been lost, even as they called on the relevant authorities to bring to book those found culpable of misusing money meant to ease the COVID-19 burden on Kenyans.
The ghost of the alleged COVID-19 rip-off by KEMSA seems not to be in a hurry to vanish, with a number of governance lobby groups ganging up to demand for accountability.
The government, as a prerequisite, before granting or loaning this money, to ensure that they put in place mechanisms to ensure that there will be transparency and accountability in the management of the funds, and particularly ensuring that there's access to information, proactive disclosure of information by the government, and also public participation of citizens in the management of those projects or any other processes related to the money that has been lent or granted by these foreign lenders.
The groups led by Transparency International, Kenya Human Rights Commission, Inuka Kenya, Nisisi, and National Taxpayers Association, among others, demanded a transparent and fair opportunity for businesses to compete for government tenders, especially those related to COVID-19. The lobby groups said the Ministry of Health should follow through in ensuring that all procurement information on COVID-19 resources is availed on their website for scrutiny by the public.
We are calling on the government to show sufficient political will to ensure that resources received to combat COVID-19 is actually used for that purpose, because that is not what is happening in the country.
Transparency International Executive Director Sheila Masinde called on Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and Asset Recovery Agency to immediately institute asset recovery procedures from those who squandered the alleged 2.3 billion shillings meant for COVID-19 intervention.
Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and the Asset Recovery Agency should move swiftly to ensure that that they immediately institute asset recovery procedures from the public officials who are implicated in the loss of these funds through the shadowy procurement that was conducted by KEMSA.
The Auditor General has done a report which shows that we've lost 2.3 billion, maybe more. But there's no action that has been taken, because there are institutions like the ESCC, the Recovery of Assets Authority, that should go on ahead and recover these assets from the people who have fraudulently squandered our money.
Inuka Kenya Deputy Director Kawive Wambua said the government should establish minimum safeguards to ensure public participation in decision-making at all levels, including the national level, for improved service delivery and accountability.
All the monies that have been sent to Kenya by donors, by external partners, or even that has been removed from or taken from the exchequer, need to be declared so that we know how much money has been given by who or taken from the exchequer, how has it been used, what has it done, and we want this accountability from both sides, both from the donors and from the government.
Beatrice Getonyang-Etich, Channel 1 News.
Also, the Ministry of Health is warning of a spike in community transmission of COVID-19, particularly in counties outside Nairobi. In the daily briefing, Health Chief Administrative Secretary Rashid Aman cautioned against ignoring the health guidelines. This comes as the number of COVID-19 infections in the country hit the 40,000 mark after 271 new cases were recorded from a sample size of 5,034.
Just a day after Kenya reported the highest number of COVID-19 recoveries in a single day, with 4,328 people having recovered from the disease, the Ministry of Health is warning of a resurgence in community transmissions. Speaking during the daily COVID-19 update in Trans Nzoia, Dr. Rashid Aman cited a case in point as Trans Nzoia County, which has recorded 65 new infections this week. Aman warned the new cases in the county were locally transmitted, expressing concern over a second wave of infections. At the same time, he pointed out 271 new cases were recorded over the past 24 hours from 5,034 samples which were tested, bringing the total tally of infections to 40,178. Of these new cases, 242 are Kenyans, while 29 are foreigners.
The 271 that we are reporting today, 242 are Kenyans and 29 are foreigners. 177 are male, 94 are female. The youngest is a 1-year-old infant. The oldest is 83.
At the same time, the CAS pointed out that the country's recovery had risen to 31,710.
Today, 51 people have recovered from the disease. 29 have been discharged from various hospitals and 22 from the home-based care program. This brings our total recoveries thus far to 31,710.
These even as he said that 3 more patients had succumbed to COVID-19.
We have also lost 3 patients to the disease, bringing the cumulative fatalities in the country to 751.
Nairobi recovered 81 new cases, while Mombasa had 58, Turkana had 16, and Kisumu recorded 15 cases. Garissa and Kiambu had 13 cases each, Kisii 10, Machakos 10, Laikipia 8, Nandi 6, Nakuru 6, while Uasin Gishu, Kilifi, Murang'a registered 5 cases each. This even as he further noted that 215 inmates at Nairobi Remand Prison are currently in isolation as the facility is on lockdown. The Health CAS urging Kenyans not to lower their guard in observing containment measures issued by government in the wake of increased political gatherings in various parts of the country. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Jackie Wambiru.
And the Orange Democratic Party leader Raila Odinga has slammed Deputy President William Ruto for his hustler campaigns, accusing him of taking advantage of vulnerable youths to polarizate Kenya. Odinga, who was speaking in Kisumu, claimed the DP's early campaigns are nothing but gimmicks to hoodwink the youth.
The Orange Democratic Movement Party leader Raila Odinga has hit out at Deputy President William Ruto over his move to conduct early campaigns, months to the forthcoming general elections.
People are talking about, there's jobs for the people. I'm saying let them wait and see once it is launched. It's not just about creating jobs for 5 people. It's going to give you a solution to a number of issues which are contentious right now. Like we're going to bring more resources down to the counties. So we must address the issue of growing the cake rather than just eating from it.
Odinga, who spoke in Kisumu, says the DP was offering quick fixes to deep-rooted problems that need an extensive approach to end the increasing rate of unemployment in the country. According to Odinga, the youth ought to be wary of persons promising them overnight success in the wake of wheelbarrows debate.
There are those people who go and cut a slice, go and eat, and after which they throw the crumbs to the young people in terms of giving them wheelbarrows to move around. Wheelbarrownomics, as they call it, is not an answer to our problem in this region, the special economic zone.
Earlier today, the ODM leader met women leaders in Kitengela, Kajiado County, where besides launching the He for She campaign, seeking to empower women, lobbied for the BBI report.
Tuangalie mambo ya ufisadi katika taifa letu.
wale ambao wanazidi kuhujuma mali ya umma katika taifa letu, ambaye akienda pale imembamba kama sindano, wale mwaka moja imefura kama kupe. Tunawajua wanamwaga pesa kila siku, leo hapa, hizo pale, kila pale hapa na hii. Na vile vile tunataka kutahadharisha makanisa wetu na hata mamisikiti wasiwe pale ambaye inakuwa kama dobi ya kusafisha pesa chafu ya wizi.
On Friday, the opposition leader is expected to tour Migori County, where he'll attend the burial of Peter Sirawa, the father to Awendo MP Walter Wino at Obasa village in Awendo sub-county. The ODM leader is set to share podium with the embattled Migori Governor Okoth Obado for the first time since he was barred from accessing office after facing corruption charges. For Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Embattled High Court Judge Martin Muya has filed a petition at the Supreme Court to block his removal from the bench. Muya was dismissed from office mid-March this year over alleged gross misconduct, abuse of office and incompetency. The dismissal was in respect of a judgment he delivered in May 2017 in which NIC Bank had been sued by two petitioners. Serafina Robi with the details.
Aggrieved High Court Judge Martin Muya, through his lawyers Fred Ngatia and Philip Nyachuti, has finally moved to the Supreme Court to stop his removal from office. This comes 6 months after a 7-member judicial tribunal chaired by retired appellate Judge Al-Nashir Visram recommended his removal, resulting in his dismissal by the President. Meanwhile, the cross-examination of 3 Wajir County officials, Ahmed Omar, Daoud Abdullahi and Jeff Moria, continued. The trio are facing graft charges in a 26 million shillings case. The defense objected to the use of a parallel statement by the prosecution while grilling Jeff Moria, who was being cross-examined. The defense argued the introduction of a new statement will jeopardize his chances to a fair trial. Meanwhile, Magistrate Teresia Murigi will give a ruling on the matter on Monday the 12th, with the hearing set to continue from the 22nd and 23rd of October. Separately, the prosecution is seeking to amend the charge sheet of former Kenya Ports Authority Managing Director Daniel Manduku, who was charged alongside Juma Fadhili. Appearing before Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi, the prosecution wants the 4th count of abuse of office dropped. The case is set for mention on the 4th of November. For Channel 1 News, I'm Serafina Robi.
And First Lady Margaret Kenyatta is calling for enhanced digital inclusion for persons with disabilities to eliminate technological barriers that prevent them from accessing services. Separately, tension was high during the burial of a 45-year-old woman who was allegedly killed in cold blood by a group of youth in Gasavari village of Mbere South sub-county in Embu County. Confusion further escalated after a son of the deceased attempted to commit suicide during the funeral ceremony. More details next in our county briefs.
This was the situation at Gashavari village in Embu County. A house lay in ruins following the murder of a 45-year-old woman. What is left in this homestead are clear evidence of the trail of terror the killer group left behind after the brutal execution. During the funeral, speakers condemned the action, urging the government to expedite the investigations amid fears of retaliatory attacks.
Lakini unapata kuna ile laxity ya follow up of the matter until now the community becomes inakaa kama inaangalia inaona ni kama serikali haishughulikii.
And Murang'a University of Technology will start offering agriculture-related courses after it signed a memorandum of understanding with the county government. The university will utilize a training firm owned by the county government to establish a campus to train on agriculture and environment courses. The university has already admitted 44 students. Separately, Maendeleo Chapter Party leader and 2022 presidential candidate Dr. Alfred Mutua has pledged to sign an executive order to end the KPLC monopoly if he ascends to the presidency in 2022. He was in Kianjai, Tigania West constituency, Meru County, during one of his listening tours.
Kenya Power and Lighting Company imekuwa na monopoly since independence. Ukiangalia zile nchi ambazo zimeendelea mbele zikatawanya stima ikaingia kwa kila nyumba, ni kwa sababu kulikuwa na kampuni nyingi, sio kampuni moja. Monopoly ya Kenya Power haitatuwezesha kuwa na stima kila mahali. Kwa hivyo naomba ya kwamba tuvunje hiyo monopoly ya Kenya Power and Lighting Company, tuwe na kampuni tofauti za kueneza stima.
Meanwhile, the Kenya National Congress of Pentecostal Ministries held interdenominational prayers in Kennel Town to cleanse the roads after the deadly clash of two political factions that left 2 youth dead. The director of the Congress, Bishop Mark Mushomba, has urged church leaders to deny political leaders the platform to spread hate in churches.
Kama watu hawata respect ama hawata heshimu kanisa, hata na sisi kama watu wa Mungu, tutawanyima nafasi, kwa sababu sio lazima waongee, na hata mtu akileta pesa kanisani haleti ndio aongee, analeta ni kwa sababu ya Mungu.
And United Green Movement Party Women League Kisii branch have vowed to fight for women's rights, saying there has been a defiance to the constitution and rule of law, especially on matters related to women.
The Kenyan women folk have been treated as secondary citizens, to whom the constitution ought not apply in total. It is now indicative that the next parliament must ensure the realization of the two-third gender principle as anticipated by the constitution.
Finally, Grace Katuya, a 46-year-old woman from Lusui village, is crying for justice after her co-wife allegedly evicted her from her matrimonial home and the land she says she purchased with her late husband.
Bisimba is me. Here I am.
Who are you?
Me, the original one. This house.
The woman and her 5 children are said to have been thrown out of their home after a domestic row on who would be allowed to bury the deceased husband. Caroline Kamar reporting for Channel 1 News.
Well, you're watching Inside, or Business Insight. Because we are live from Broadcasting House, we have a lot in store for you, because as we say, this is the most comprehensive business bulletin on the land. Stay right here. We are back after the break.
Jumapili hii kwenye runinga ya KBC, ungana naye Askofu Michael Wanderi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu kuanzia saa 1 hadi saa 2 asubuhi.
Ningetaka nikwambie, our Jehovah God, because the Bible says he is the same yesterday, today and forevermore. He is able to take you to a place of abundance. He is able to take you to Rehoboth in the name of Jesus Christ.
Kipindi ni neno la neema, ukiletewa naye Askofu Michael Wanderi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu. Usikose.
Next on.
Wacha nikuchapie. Glenn msa anaweza kupatia wera ya nguvu sana. Hata kikukumbusha kitu utaki kukumbuka, wewe kumbuka tu.
Kuna ufala sana. Aya, wewe mgeni wa Tiff?
Yeah.
So basi nende nimchapie uko hapa ndo nikam.
Is that necessary? The family knows.
Yaje? Wewe ndio Sifa?
Yeah.
Tiff ameniambia unakam. Karibu. Kwa ngori mazi.
Wewe na nani?
Ushaanza tena.
Cheki, siniliambia hizi mix zenu mimi msiniingishe.
Cheki, ongea pole pole, unachoma.
I might be the one firing you.
So, bibi na watoto watakula nini?
The next time be smart.
Now, turn our focus on to business. Kenyans deposited an average of 7 billion shillings daily on mobile money platform between April and June this year, following a recommendation from the government for cashless transactions as well as waiving transaction charges for low denominations. Data from the Communications Authority of Kenya indicates that 634 billion shillings was deposited in mobile money wallets, while the number of mobile subscriptions rose 3.3% to 57 million.
Since the first case of the COVID-19 pandemic was reported in the country in March this year, the government encouraged the use of e-services in a bid to curb the spread of the virus. The directive on the use of cashless payment systems to contain COVID-19 pandemic and the attendant waiver of a transaction of cost for amounts equal to or less than 1,000 shillings saw mobile money transactions increase during the fourth quarter of the last financial year. In the period under review, there were 558 million person-to-person transactions valued at 722.5 billion shillings. Customer-to-business transactions were valued at 446.5 billion shillings, while customer-to-government transactions stood at 8.7 billion shillings. In the quarter under review, active mobile money subscriptions stood at 30.5 million, whereas active mobile money agents stood at 223,184. The total local mobile voice traffic originating from mobile networks stood at 15.2 billion minutes, which was a decline of 0.9% from 15.3 billion minutes recorded in the previous quarter. This is attributed to reduced business activity during the lockdown and the dusk to dawn curfew as measures introduced in the period to curb the pandemic. During the April to June 2020 period, there was a general decline in the international incoming and outgoing voice and SMS traffic. This is attributed to the increased uptake of the internet-based calls, which also provide video services. Total fixed broadband subscriptions registered a remarkable growth of 14.7% to stand at 609,611 due to the high demand of broadband services as most consumers worked from home and learners continued to attend online classes. During the quarter, the total number of letters posted locally recorded a substantial decline of 58.2% to post 3.5 million from 8.5 million letters in the last quarter. The decline is attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic, which impacted on economic activities, thus limiting letter postage as a means of communication among corporates, SMEs and individuals.
And the government plans to roll out a compensation scheme for police officers who die in the line of duty. The scheme, part of ongoing police reforms, is aimed at improving officers' welfare, thereby boosting their morale. Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i says the new welfare scheme will be launched later this year.
The quality of life Kenyan police officers lead has for long been described as deplorable due to poor remuneration and bad working environment. This was highlighted by the 2011 Kriegler report that called for better pay, improved working conditions and proper training for the Kenya Police Service. In 2015, the force achieved a major milestone after the government contracted a local underwriter to offer insurance cover to uniformed officers. The government has also been constructing thousands of houses for police officers and upgrading police stations.
Under the new Big Four arrangement plan we have now, some of the houses that we are building are reserved for our police officers, so that we too live and begin to enjoy a better quality of life, as it were.
And this year, the force will roll out another welfare scheme for officers who lose their lives in the line of duty. Interior Ministry Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i says part of the affordable housing project has been set aside for police officers in efforts to provide decent housing for uniformed officers. Matiang'i was speaking during the launch of Kenya Police Sacco Digital Systems Upgrade, where he said through cooperatives, members of the disciplined forces can access affordable credit and uplift their lives. Sentiments echoed by the Principal Secretary in charge of cooperatives, Ali Nur Ismail, who lauded the SACCO for going digital.
This is how we will manage to support our officers and ensure that our officers' lives, especially the lives of their families, in the event, God forbid, anything happens, some of these children can actually go to school, some of these children can have a future as they go forward.
This is the way to go, because we know technology is important for delivery of services, especially for a financial institution like a SACCO.
The Inspector General of Police, Hilary Mutyambai, said technology more than ever has shown how important it is for organizations this year with the COVID-19 pandemic, adding that the new systems will improve customer service delivery.
SACCOs are worth investments, ventures, providing members an opportunity to save and access affordable credit to enhance their personal development and those of their families.
With the new system, the society is operating a new co-banking solution, ERP, and alternative business channels, key among them being Mtawi, a mobile banking solution available on both the app and the USSD. Mtawi has in particular been a timely addition to our menu by offering members a lot of flexibility.
Betty Kiptum, Channel 1 Business.
Elsewhere, Kenya plans to introduce genetically modified cassava seeds as the country plans to increase production. The Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization has already applied to the National Biosafety Authority, which is in the final stages of approving the seed. Kenya produces 1.5 tons of cassava, annually valued at 22 billion shillings. Despite cassava providing dietary and energy needs for more than 500,000 homesteads in the country, production has been declining due to a combination of poor seeds and low market yields. Last year, the country produced 973,000 tons of cassava, all of which were sold and consumed in the country.
Going forward, this is a very important crop because it is used as food, it is used as feed, it is used in industry. And we think that farmers in the arid and semi-arid areas of this country can be able to benefit from this crop. Currently, it is grown in 12 counties, Busia being the leading county, but other counties include Kisumu, Mtwapa, Kitui, Machakos, and several others.
To boost the uptake of the crop, the government published the flour blending policy regulations to create market linkages between farmers and processors, where cassava was proposed to be used with maize or wheat flour to produce highly nutritious composite flour.
We hope to train farmers so that they can apply good agronomic practices with varieties with high yield potential. And once we have increased the productivity, there's the challenge of market. And we are addressing that challenge of market through value addition.
However, millers have over the years complained lack of enough cassava in the Kenyan markets. The Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization Director General Eliud Kierger says Carlo has embarked on training extension staff and service providers from counties implementing the Kenya Climate Smart Agricultural Productivity Project that seeks to boost the production of the crop in the country. Speaking during a cassava value chain training of trainers meeting at the Carlo field offices in Mtwapa, Kierger says the project targets to train 500,000 smallholder farmers in the 3 counties of Kisumu, Busia and Lamu.
So part of the training we are doing today is on post-harvest management. That is value addition, so that they can be able to prolong the life of the product, so that they don't create a glut in the market. Currently, most of it is just used for cooking. Very little is going into the industry. But if the industry opens up, and also the industry cannot open up if we don't have enough planting material.
Cassava is the 3rd most important food and cash crop in the world and accounts for 1/3 of the total production of staple food crops in sub-Saharan Africa. Carlo says the genetically modified cassava is resistant to cassava brown streak disease, a common viral disease present in Kenya that attacks the crop. Obrien came in for lunchtime, Business News. And President Uhuru Kenyatta has signed into law the 2020-2021 County Revenue Allocation Bill, paving the way for the disbursement of the Exchequer's funds to the counties. In the current fiscal year, counties will get 370 billion shillings, comprising of 316 billion shillings as equitable share, with the rest consisting of conditional grants, fuel levy, as well as loans and grants.
The County Allocation of Revenue Bill 2020 was published on 17th of April 2020, but its enactment was delayed at the Senate until September. For at least 10 times, senators failed to agree on how government revenue was to be shared between the national and the devolved government. The delay in passing the revenue sharing formula saw the governors announce the shutting down of some services in the counties. The impasse at the Senate was resolved with the formula passed in September. And on Tuesday, the National Assembly passed the County Allocation of Revenue Bill that was on Thursday morning signed into law by President Uhuru Kenyatta. The new law allocates to counties a sum of 369.87 billion shillings in the current fiscal year, comprising of 316.5 billion shillings of equitable share and 13.73 billion shillings in conditional grants from the government. The cash also includes 9.43 billion shillings from the road maintenance fuel levy, as well as 30.2 billion shillings in loans and grants. The conditional allocation is to be utilized in the provision of services such as leasing of medical equipment and rehabilitation of youth polytechnics across the 47 counties. The bill was presented to the head of state for signature by Speaker of the Senate Ken Lusaka at a ceremony attended by Speaker of the National Assembly Justin Muturi and Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani. Also present were leaders of majority in the Senate and the National Assembly, clerks of both houses, Solicitor General Ken Ogeto, and State House Deputy Chief of Staff Njaya Muturi.
Located in the middle of the expansive Savo West National Park, Mzima Spring is a beautiful oasis of 4 natural springs that dot the dusty landscape of Savo. It's a magical place to observe a cycle of life as hippos, turtles, and crocodiles mingle, swim, and feed from the springs. Mzima, which is a Swahili word for alive, is a perfect relaxation hotspot for nature lovers away from the hassles of modern-day life. Irene Muchuma traverses State Taveta County on a magical scenes tonight to explore the sights and sounds of Savo.
Savo West National Park is a beautiful, rugged wilderness. It arguably offers magnificent game viewing in the wild, and attractions include the Mzima Springs. Mzima means alive in Swahili language. Mzima has a series of 4 natural springs sourced under the Chilu Hills to the north. The springs is made of ash and dung. It is so graceful and magical to see hippos, turtles, and Nile crocodiles swim together. The reptiles and amphibians too feed from the springs. One watches from a glass-built chamber underneath, bringing out unmatched scenery, so close and hardly thought of. The hippos sustain an entire food chain from this destination. The hippos browse the surrounding savanna by night and return to Mzima's pools by day, where their dung fertilizes the water. Fruiting trees such as figs grow beside the water, using their submerged roots to absorb nutrients. The fruits from the trees are a source of food for monkeys and lots of birds. The crocodiles too have mastered their way to survival. This underwater viewing chamber, nature trails, and scenic picnic spots provides a refreshing, rewarding, and romantic adventure.
It's beautiful here, and the pool is the best part of the entire place. It's big and it's nice, and I got a nice tan from it.
Cottage that we stayed on was so comfortable that we slept like a baby for 2 nights in a row. And the atmosphere, everything, we love it, and we want to come back here. It's just a beautiful place to stay.
Mzima Springs should arguably be in your holiday bucket list this season? Irene Mchuma Odim, Medical Science in the county of Taita Taveta.
Irene Mchuma there, always with her magical moment. The Kenya Ferry Services has automated its service payment system at the Likoni Crossing Channel in efforts to seal revenue collections leakages. Acting Managing Director Thomas Tuva expects revenue collections to increase by at least half when the system is fully operational.
The automation of the payment systems for ferry services is expected to enhance transparency in revenue collections by sealing loopholes at the busy Likoni Crossing Channel, which ferries over 6,000 vehicles and 300,000 passengers daily. Acting Managing Director says the automation is a revenue collection milestone for a parastatal that nets about 1.3 million shillings daily.
There shall be validation of all the payments that will be made through this system. There will be a validation team of inspectors, and the management, senior management and finance department shall enforce and ensure that people have paid appropriately.
Automation of the service is also expected to reduce time spent by ferry users and enhance efficiency as well as customer experience.
Through this bold and innovative move, KFS now can amplify their most distinctive capabilities, and that will benefit all their customers and avoid the complications of physical cash handling, and can now further automate and add value to their current ecosystems, as has been mentioned earlier, in terms of customer information and being able just to collect all the data that they need.
The Kenya Ferry Service plans to gradually phase out the manual system. Reporting for Channel 1 Business News from Mombasa County, I'm Michael Moniga.
And small businesses are said to benefit from our 125 million shillings economic resilience building package aimed at supporting entrepreneurs recover from the coronavirus pandemic. The initiative by corporates such as Coca-Cola, AMREF, ABSA, Women Enterprise Fund, and the county government of Laikipia targets to support over 80,000 traders in phases beginning this month.
In June this year, the Central Bank of Kenya warned that close to 70% of SMEs were likely to close business due to the impact of COVID-19. Speaking during the launch of the Economic Resilience Building Package for small businesses, corporates and government agencies committed to support MSMEs between now and March next year with financial, COVID-19 health protocols compliance consultations and PPE support.
The tripartite partnership is to ensure that we stimulate the resumption of the economy in a safe manner, and also ensuring that there's sufficient working capital and financial support to ensure that the value chain and the ecosystem of the traders is actually able to get back on its feet.
So the funding will be applied into that. And number 3, you also have ABSA, who are our financing partner in this. And the key thing from ABSA as well is to provide the working capital support that we need. This is both to our distributors and also to the shops who buy from the distributors.
Meanwhile, farmers can now access AflaSafe, which is a biocontrol product that helps in suppressing aflatoxin in crops from the National Cereals and Produce Board depots as the government moves to curb the spread of the toxic substance. NCPB Managing Director Joseph Kimote says the board, in conjunction with corporate biological systems, plan to train farmers on safe applications of AflaSafe to ensure citizens consume healthy food.
And we want to ensure that indeed we encourage our farmers to use AflaSafe so that we don't have to destroy food again because of aflatoxin infestation. So that is the import of this particular product. And we want to also encourage also the other partners to be able to join us, and we go through the journey of promoting this product in this country.
Finally, Davis and Shatcliffe has completed construction of its ultra-modern distribution facility at Tattoo Industrial Park that is expected to revolutionize the group's operations. The company said the facility, which is its single largest investment ever undertaken, will improve the efficiency in logistics and distribution for the regional business. Davis and Shatcliffe Group Chairman Alec Davis expects the new facility to be fully operational in the next 2 months. He says Davis and Shatcliffe plans to use the new facility to increase the company's network to 70% coverage across Kenya and support its expansion into other African markets.
The tea industry has been going through a turbulent time in recent years. Tea earnings have been on a downward trend, which coupled with management issues have seen some disgruntled farmers opting for other ventures. When the COVID-19 pandemic that hurt sales exacerbated the problem. Kenya Tea Development Agency manages 66 tea factories that market production from over 620,000 smallholder farms. Well, Peter Kiptum spoke with KTDA Sales and Marketing Manager John Bate on the state of the tea industry, and this is how the conversation went down.
Thank you for watching Business Insight. Now tonight in our interactive session, we would like to discuss matters of the tea industry. The industry contributes about 115 billion shillings as at the last financial year to Kenya's GDP. Now, the smallholder farmers under the Kenya Tea Development Agency, that contributed about 69 billion shillings. To put that into perspective, Kenya's tea sector contributes about 40% of the agricultural GDP. And to discuss what that means and how the managing of the small-scale tea farmers is John Bate. He is the Sales and Marketing General Manager at the Kenya Tea Development Agency. Welcome and thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you for having me.
Asante sana. Now, 620,000 farmers or thereabout under the Kenya Tea Development Agency. Could you just give us how managing that works?
Yeah, 620,000 farmers spread across 16 counties in the Republic of Kenya. Is managed through the various small-scale tea factories under the KTDA management. And these small-scale tea factories have been growing over the years in tandem with the production volumes. In the year just ended, in June 2020, we had the highest crop received from the small-scale tea farmers ever in the history of the small-scale sector in Kenya, of 1.45 billion kilos of green leaf. This was processed to make 327 million kilos of made tea, because ordinarily 4.5 kilos of green leaf delivered by the farmers is processed to make 1 kilo of made tea, which is now sellable in the market. So out of that 327 million kilos of made tea, we were able to sell over 80% of it. I'll tell you about 85-86% of that in the global market, because 97% of the small-scale tea farmers' tea is actually exported to a number of countries. Leading among those countries is Pakistan, UK, Egypt, UAE, Sudan, among other countries. So in totality, the small-scale tea sector still plays a very critical role in the rural economies, ensuring that there is livelihoods in terms of incomes, which is used to sustain the farmers' lives in rural areas.
Right. That is very important, definitely. Yeah. So how does now the bumper harvest, so to say, that you've just given us, how does it translate to the payment for farmers?
Yeah, that bumper harvest, in terms of the global, because these are global business, given that 97% of that is exported, contributes or competes with tea from other producing countries. Globally, we have over 60 countries producing tea. But the key countries that determine the flow of the market is largely Kenya, India, China, and Sri Lanka, amongst others. Of course, there is Vietnam that also has a big place in the supply chain, and Turkey and Malawi from Africa. So when you look at the production from these countries and put them together, it now determines the flow in the price levels given the supply-demand dynamics. So when you look at production situation from these countries, we have from 2018 we have had very good harvest from these countries, resulting in oversurplus of over 200 million kilos. Whereas at the beginning of the year just ended, that was as of July 2019, we had over 200 million kilo surplus. So when you put the record crop that we received in the year, it means the prices were definitely going to go down further because we are supplying much more than what the market can consume. Ordinarily, consumption growth globally is about 3.7%. And production is going as high as almost 4.5%. So you can see that gap. So when we came into the corona pandemic season, the corona pandemic was coming to dampen further an already challenged environment, because the key parameters that determine the demand of tea globally, one is of course the population and the population dynamics, the economies of those countries, the exchange rates, because the tea is traded in dollars, so when you go and translate to the local currency, so that has an effect. And then now the global supply chain issues, political, economic issues, regulatory issues, and all that stuff. So Corona came in just to make an already challenged environment much more difficult. Yes, yeah.
And when you mention now the coronavirus pandemic, how did it impact maybe the exports? Just give us those dynamics. How did it hit the industry?
In terms of supply, luckily for us as Kenya, we didn't suffer much because tea, given that it's one of those special crops that was given preference as an export product. The logistics from the farm to the factory, from the factory to Mombasa was well arranged. We had exemptions in terms of logistics to Mombasa from the government, and therefore tea movement from upcountry to the Mombasa was not disrupted as much. Right. But right from Mombasa, in terms of the export process, there was a bit of disruption there because, from the statistics that we have, for every 10 containers or ships that come to Mombasa, about 4 come from China. So when that inflow of ships was disrupted because of the pandemic, then of course the offtake of tea was disrupted. And during that period, around April, May, there was a week that in fact we had the lowest absorption in the market. Absorption means of the teas that we were ready to sell, how much actually got sold. And it came down to as low as 63%. So, but we have seen that improve gradually over the coming months as mitigation measures of Corona took effect, and also as the global economy now, after the management of the Corona pandemic has been succeeded. The global economy is starting to resume and come back into full activity. So. And this also happened at the time when the production is starting to go down. So, though we have seen the prices recover in the month of early September, late August, but of course for the year ended June 2020, the prices realized were about 8% lower than what we realized last year. That was, we realized an average price of $2.38 because this tea is traded in dollars, compared to 2.59 that we closed with in the year ended June 2019.
Now, considering the numbers that you've put forth, despite the bumper harvest, what will these now impact the payment that farmers get for that year ended June 2020?
The good thing is that this is a volume-based business also. So though the price came down by 8%, we were able to sell more tea than we had the previous year, generating a revenue growth of about 14%. So though the price has come down by that 8%, in terms of revenue generated from the sale of tea, we had a 14% growth. And this is what the factory boards are now meeting to discuss and declare the final payments to farmers.
Mm-hmm. And those final payments, of course, they are ongoing right now. There are some factories that have already released theirs. How do the numbers look?
As a managing agent, of course, the authority to declare and announce lies with the factories. So I may not have that right to talk on their numbers. But generally, we expect that in terms of absolute numbers, that it's much better than what it was last year. But of course, different factories perform differently because all factories have different cost structures. Some factories have projects that are running, like new factories, they're doing expansions. So depending on the cost structures of different factories, then definitely they'll announce different rates. Secondly, the quality, the performance of tea in the market is not uniform across all factories, depending on the quality of tea produced from those factories, and also the volumes of tea produced from those factories. So price is the key determinant of the performance of factories, and that is why it's always quality at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah. Of course, quality is, as you said, is a big determinant of the eventual pay that farmers get. There is also the cost of production that you've mentioned. How is KTDA helping farmers to ensure that, or the factories, so to say, to ensure that production is at its most efficient level?
Over the years, there's been a lot of investment in managing the costs. One of it being mechanization. Previously, in a factory, you'd have so many staff, to about 300 or thereabout, running the operations within the factory. But because of mechanization, these numbers have actually come down. Secondly, we have also invested a lot in ICT to try and automate some of the functions that were being done manually before. Thirdly is investments along the value chain, in terms of warehousing, in terms of power generation, in terms of tea machinery, where we are importing from outside the country, now we're producing locally. So, and of course the key among the activities that will ensure that the farmer gets the best return is investments in quality management. When you look at the factory expansions, the factories are expanded to ensure that the tea is processed as fresh as possible. The longer the tea stays in the field, the lower the quality deteriorates very fast. So that investment in factory expansion, new production facility in terms of satellites, the road maintenance, all that has gone towards ensuring that the tea arrives at the factory in good quality, processed and marketed when it's still in its best form.
There's a place that I read that Kenyan tea is the only tea that tastes the same both on the ground and in the air. Is that right? That was something interesting to find out. But that said, it means that Kenya's tea has quite some good quality to compete in the international levels. Are there any plans of maybe diversification into other types of tea?
Just to admit that the Kenyan tea is of good quality and is accepted globally. It's true. This is an international business, and in running this business, you have to comply with all the international requirements in terms of the biological requirements, minimum residue levels, and all other aspects of good manufacturing and agricultural practices. So when our tea is able to penetrate all the countries, because we ship to so many countries, because we're able to meet those international standards that will enable us. And that's why when you look at the factories, the hygiene standards, the safety standards, and everything that pertains to good manufacturing practices is deployed. So, and that is what we plan to do going forward, so that we're always able to penetrate new markets, even as we bring in new products. Because right now we have been largely servicing the black CTC segment of the global tea, because globally there are three main types of teas. There's black CTC, black orthodox, and green teas. And green teas can be also green CTC and other types of teas. So we have been largely on black CTC. which means it's restricting us to a few markets. So, but in the recent past, we have also gone into Black Orthodox market. This is a market that is largely dominated by the likes of Sri Lanka. Government on what needs to be done, either to manage the land subdivision and also to introduce other revenue streams for farmers that they're able to assist the farmers to meet those challenges. The other big key challenge, of course, is the cost of production. And that is why now we've been investing in power generation to try and bring down the cost of power and also the quality of power. Second is automation to try and reduce the cost of labor, because labor and energy are the two key cost centers in running a factory. If you can manage those two, then there will be more money to the pockets of farmers. And so one of them is, of course, that power generation. The other one is investment in wood lots. You buy farms, you plant your own eucalyptus, then you supply this. And then the other one is, of course, automation in terms of the e-platforms, trying to use ICT to run most of the operations in order again to reduce on the cost of labor.
And how about the education to farmers?
Yes, thank you very much. One of our subsidiaries, because we have a number of subsidiaries that have been invested along the value chain of tea to try and lock in as much value for the farmers. I know you are aware that just the other day the farmers received a total of 693 million Kenya shillings out of the investments in these subsidiaries. So one of the subsidiaries is KTDA Foundation. And the work of that KTDA Foundation is to invest in the farmers, in the pillars of education, health, environment, and to ensure that the farmer is also taken through aspects of nutrition, aspects of financial literacy, and also there are quite a number of needy children from tea growing areas. So how can those children be assisted in the schooling? Right now we have about 800 children that are within the education system, courtesy of that program. So this foundation is working with partners. Some of the partners are our buyers to try and assist farmers in those pillars of education, health, and environment.
Right. Now, the issue that most people are asking themselves, there are the new tea regulations that were introduced or ever proposed by the Agriculture Ministry. What is your view? What is KTDA's stand on those regulations?
Yeah, I think broadly we need to say that tea, being food, is produced in a regulated environment. And we have always been in a regulated environment, both locally and globally. So the aspects, the discussion that is ongoing right now on the new regulations is such that we are not opposed. I think the company has pronounced itself that we are not opposed to the tea regulations. But there are some few aspects that we need to engage more on to ensure that we arrive at a progressive regulated environment that is conducive for continued growth and even much more growth for the sector. So I think broadly that's what I can say, that yes, the business is not opposed to regulations. We have always been in a regulated environment, and those aspects that are pain points to the sector, we just need that discussion and understanding so that we can now grow this sector to much higher production or productivity.
Yes. Or do you say that those discussions are ongoing between the stakeholders that are involved?
Yeah, the discussions are ongoing. There are discussions in the field. The field, I mean, in the factories. There are discussions in Parliament. So this discussion, I believe, at the end of the day, we will be able to bring understanding and consensus in how to take this industry.
Right, which is very important, of course, the growth of the industry as a whole.
Yes.
Now, as we move forward now for the tea industry, or largely for the small-scale farmer who is a tea farmer, what is the way forward for them, and what can you tell them as they watch this interview about the future of the tea industry?
I think the future of the tea industry is still assured. In the sense that tea is the second most consumed beverage in the world after water. So that future is still there. The population is still growing. The biggest growth areas is Africa, with a young population. So I think the key drivers is how do we ensure that tea stays relevant in the minds and lifestyle of a young person, because that's the future market. If you see established markets like UK, the black tea consumption is going down, but consumption of this green tea and specialty tea products is going up. The same is replicated across the world. So, and competition is getting stronger by the day. We have competition from carbonated drinks. We have more competition from water itself. Previously, water, you only drink water from a tap, or when you're at home or in the office from a bottle. But these days, water is portable. So there's more competition from there also. More competition from coffee, other beverages. And also more competition from what else can you use the money with? There's competition for the throat on matters that you can swallow, but also there's competition for the pocket. On these days, a young man will decide whether to have a cup of tea or buy airtime, so that they can enjoy the social media and all that stuff. So there's competition everywhere. But in broadly, there's the future. Because tea, people are becoming much more health conscious. They want products that will improve their livelihoods in terms of wellness, and also the products that are produced in an ethical manner, ecologically friendly manner. There are quite a number of UN SDG, social sustainable development goals that in the tea sector we subscribe to. And economic empowerment, elimination of poverty, all that stuff. So tea has a future, and we just have to ensure that we produce tea in a sustainable, ecologically friendly, and ethically acceptable standards.
Ethically acceptable standards. So what are your closing remarks for this conversation?
So my closing thoughts is such that the small-scale tea sector in Kenya has grown fundamentally out of the governance structure that it has enjoyed, that it has had, where the farmer controls the value chain, at least to the point of the market. And in designing and defining the future, the successes that we have had in the past should actually inform how we are going to progress going forward, so that the farmer is safeguarded, the farmer's investment is safeguarded, the farmer's livelihoods are safeguarded, and then we consider what else can be done to ensure that the farmer is sustainable in their livelihoods in terms of other alternative income streams that the farmer can depend on, because the tea is being a commodity, is susceptible to volatilities in the market.
Thank you very much for speaking with us. Well, that is John Bett. He is the General Manager in charge of Sales and Marketing at the Kenya Tea Development Agency. We have been discussing matters of the tea industry, especially the small-scale farmer, and he says that diversification, taking advantage of the target market, or rather the new market that is developing, as well as just going into those new markets out there with the diversified green teas as well as the orthodox teas are the way to go. He says that the tea industry has a future and that the tea farmer will continue making a profit. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Betty Kiptum. Continue watching Business Insight.
Let's cross borders now and have a look at international business news. The UK has agreed to settle a lawsuit over how it selected an IT contract for coronavirus testing as 8 Lighthouse Labs. British company Diagnostics AI claimed it lost out to a European rival, Tech, despite spotting some positive coronavirus cases. Its rival missed. It sued the government over the decision, claiming the selection process was unfair and unlawful. Here are the details, plus more.
Lighthouse Labs are a UK-wide network of specialist coronavirus laboratories managed by the government and run by private firms. When the labs were set up, companies pitched to analyze the test results. The dispute was due to be played in court. It would have meant a public examination of the accuracy and the speed of the testing system at a time when it has come under serious criticism. But the government has decided to settle the case and will pay Diagnostics AI compensation and most of its legal fees, estimated at £2 million. However, despite agreeing to the payout, the government has refuted the claims made by Diagnostics AI, saying they are inaccurate. Meanwhile, Samsung predicts its profit jumped nearly 60% last quarter, suggesting it could soon retake its position as the world's top smartphone seller from Chinese rival Huawei. The South Korean conglomerate says it expects to make an operating profit of about $10.6 billion for the July-September quarter. Samsung said it expects sales for the third quarter will rise about 6% to $57 billion. Earlier this year, the company was displaced by Huawei as the world's top smartphone seller as the coronavirus pandemic weighed on the global economy. Most of Huawei sales are in China, which has recovered faster than other countries. Finally, creative artists in South Africa are feeling the heat from the health restrictions put on crowd gatherings amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The creative arts industry depends on audience to buy tickets for theatre productions, concerts, book signings, and event art openings. However, with safety measures in place to control the spread of the virus, the 6-month-long lockdown period has meant no gatherings and no revenue generated either. South Africa's Department of Arts and Culture released a $9 million relief fund to assist artists during the pandemic. The package was only offered to those whose projects were cancelled as a result of the lockdown. Artists say their work is more than just a one-time event. The creative industry sector contributes 2.9% to South Africa's GDP. Sheila Yogo, reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Na msibabaishwe na yale mnayoyapitia, hata yawe magumu kiasi gani, yote yatapita. La msingi ni kuweka tumaini letu kwa Mungu aliyetuumba. Katika kitabu cha Warumi 5:3, wala si hivyo tu, ila mnafurahia.
Kupata dhiki huleta zaburi, bonyeza *811 *963#. Bonyeza *811 *963#.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Mwalimu, angisi mother shares Mbathi Day with Falas girlfriend.
Really? What a weird coincidence.
You and I both can agree that all this is not for Sisha.
Saitan. See, I thought we said we are not going to speak about that Jechien again. Why are you spoiling my mood, Yawa?
Please, Yose, what is wrong, eh?
Please, what? You think I'm one of those women you are calling?
Mwalimu, can you imagine Sisha wants to kill Ngalo?
Or maybe it is you.
Me? Why? What did I do to you?
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Freeze! This is a holdup.
Ease up there, Casper.
I wouldn't do that.
You're not a rapper.
So pull your pants up.
Guess who's back in town? Who? Annie Streets. I was gonna catch a movie tomorrow night.
By yourself?
You know that Mexican guy you arrested? Look, you don't know who you're messing with.
Release my brother if you want to see her alive.
Where do you think you're going?
I'm going to Mexico.
No, you're not going to Mexico.
When danger becomes a reality, it must be met head on.
12 gauge in the knee seat. Gonna raise a little bit off the red man to ride. I'm a redneck fool in a four-wheel drive.
It is the first international football encounter in the country in 6 months since the COVID-19 pandemic brought sporting activities to a standstill. Catch the action between Harambee Stars against Chipolopolo of Zambia this Friday, kicking off at 4 p.m. live from Nyayo National Stadium.
Flappy runs the chances in the back of the net, and they done it. Kenya equalize. Olunga with the
On KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Time now for sports news. National football team Harambee Stars today held their last training session ahead of tomorrow's friendly match against Zambia at the Nyayo National Stadium. Chipolopolo are expected in the country tonight and will have a fill of the field to play tomorrow morning. The match, which will be the first for most local players in the squad since sporting activities were halted in early March due to the COVID-19 pandemic, will be broadcast live on KBC Channel 1 from 4 p.m.
Having reported to camp on Sunday, Harambee Stars continues to prepare for tomorrow's friendly match against Zambia at the Nyayo National Stadium as head coach Francis Kimanzi strives to increase the squad's fitness levels ahead of the game.
Kwangu ni kuangalia wale wachezaji tutapatia nafasi kesho kabla mechi ya Comoros. Ningependa wachezaji watupatie kesho at least jibu kubwa la kutuonyesha kwamba wako tayari na wana uwezo. Ni wakati wa Comoros kidogo wakuwa wametuweka pressure. If they trouble our mind kidogo wakati wa selection for the next game, hiyo kitu inaweza kuwa mzuri kwetu. Hiyo ndio kitu tunaomba kesho. Tutapata wachezaji 4 5 ambao wanatuuliza maswali that kwa nini mechi ijao nisiwe pale. Hilo swali ndio tunaomba kesho watatupatia. Olunga, Wanyama, Yohana Omolo, wote kesi ni Ayub Timbe na dakika ya mwisho pia Okumu. Pia imekuwa ni the same challenge tulikuwa nayo, but tukasema ni mzuri pia wakati hawapo pia wengine tuwape nafasi, wala tumekuwa kila time tunataka kuwaona.
Both Kenya and Zambia will be using the fixture, which will be played behind closed doors owing to the current COVID-19 protocols, to prepare for next month's 2021 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers.
So we have tested our players and the officials. Anyone coming to the stadium will keep social distancing tomorrow. We have officials, we have TV officials that will be here. They will not meet with the players anywhere. And so now it's serious distancing and segregation that we are doing. I am happy with the job that we have put in on COVID-19 matters. We take them very seriously. Tomorrow we don't have fans on the in the stadium. We have on TV. You're going to be able to watch a game on Rainbow TV tomorrow.
Stars are expected to host Comoros in Nairobi before traveling to Moroni for the return leg.
Nahitaji matokeo katika mechi ya Comoros. Hamna njia nyingine. Angalau pointi 4 tupate katika mechi za Comoros. Tukipata 4 basi Togo na Egypt wanakuja Kenya, tunakwenda Togo, tunaweza kufanya kitu.
Zambia beat Stars 2-1 when the two sides last met in Nairobi in a 2017 AFCON qualifier match. The match will be live on KBC Channel 1 from 4 p.m. on Friday. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Time now for international sports news. In form, Everton striker Calvert-Lewin is set to make his debut in the senior England squad tonight when the Three Lions host Wales at the Wembley Stadium in a friendly match. The two sides are using the match as a precursor for both sides' Nations League's debut doubleheader of the international break. Meanwhile, Mesut Ozil has been left out of Arsenal's Europa League squad for the 2020-2021 campaign.
Mesut Ozil has not played for Arsenal since March, and his future at the club has been in doubt for some time, with manager Mikel Arteta recently saying it has been difficult for Ozil to break back into the side. The 31-year-old played in every Premier League game under Arteta until the season was halted due to the coronavirus pandemic, but has not featured since. Arsenal's Europa League campaign will begin when they face Group B rivals Rapid Vienna in Austria on October 22nd before matches against Dundalk and Molde. Meanwhile, new signings Edinson Cavani, Alex Telles and Facundo Pellistri have been named in Manchester United's squad for the Champions League group stages alongside Donny van Beek, who arrived earlier on. United begin the Champions League campaign against French champions Paris Saint-Germain before taking on Red Bull Leipzig and Istanbul Başakşehir. Elsewhere, England host Wales at Wembley in a friendly match ahead of the UEFA Nations League set for Saturday. England takes on Belgium on Sunday and Denmark next Wednesday, while Wales visit Ireland and Bulgaria respectively on the same days. In another match set for tonight, Belgium hosts Ivory Coast in Brussels.
Well, that's all. Thank you so very much indeed for being with us. In the last 1 hour and 20-something minutes, has been such a great honor. I mean, we've taken you to different worlds, from politics to business, as well as sport, and of course a little bit of tourism there during our magical scenes moment. This is what we call a comprehensive coverage of the day's events, both in business and sports as well as in general news. My name is Obrien Kimani. Coming up next, in the next, let's say about 8 minutes from now, is Inside Government. Tonight we are focusing, or we continue with our focus on blue economy. Last year, President Uhuru Kenyatta elevated Bandari College into Bandari Maritime Academy in a bid to increase the training of seafarers in the country. And the question is, what has changed since then? And is Bandari Maritime Academy well positioned to play this role that it has relegated in the past? That's a question that I posed to the Acting Managing Director General, Mr. Francis Mariah. You have to keep it right here for that interview. Thank you for your time, and of course remember the weather. Yeah, you need to know how tomorrow is going to turn out. Today was absolutely hot here in the city. Is it going to be the same tomorrow? I absolutely don't have any idea, but I'm sure the weather team has that information. Why don't you have yourself a pleasant evening as you wait for Inside Government. Good night.
Good evening and a warm welcome to you wherever you're watching us from. I hope you're having yourselves a lovely evening. My name is Yusuf Farah. This is Channel 1 with the updates now. It's another one of those nights where Narok residents have to keep warm because they are experiencing the coldest temperatures in the country. 11 degrees Celsius now. Dry weather conditions continue to dominate most parts of the country. However, there will be rainfall accompanied by thunderstorms in the western sector. Tomorrow morning, this is how things are looking. We are waking up to yet another bright morning in the country. Sunny intervals from the northeastern region to the Lake Turkana Basin, Kisumu Kisumu all the way to the capital city, Nairobi. However, for Lamu residents, expect sunny intervals with a little bit of showers and cloudy conditions. In the afternoon, residents of Kitale and Eldoret expect rainfall accompanied by thunderstorms. For the rest of the parts of the country tomorrow, there will be sunny intervals from the northeastern region to here in the capital city of our country and the coastal region as well. As far as the temperatures are concerned, Mandera highs of 38, lows of 24. Here in Nairobi, highs of 29 and lows of 13, and for Voi, highs of 33 and lows of 19. On that note, I leave you with the international weather forecast. Stay safe, keep warm, and have a lovely night.